Morning, it's 9 o'clock. Glad that at least someone can find their way down here to this morning. I hope you had a pleasant Thursday. At least I had on the speaker's dinner yesterday. My name is Ove Lindström. I'm going to talk about crash coaching and how to do agile coaching in a dangerous feedback. So I will take you on a little journey this morning. I'm 44 years old. I have two lovely daughters, more than I deserve actually. And I'm a long-time agile evangelist, and I'm a speed junkie, a total speed junkie. If it goes fast, I will love it. This is me, or, well, not me, it's the picture that was taken when I started and was getting my access card at ASSA ABLOY. And this is also me. A little bit more protected, a little bit more lean, and, well, I will come back to these images in a short while, but I will have a quick words from my sponsors. How many of you have actually heard about ASSA ABLOY? Yeah, one. Well, I work for ASSA ABLOY. I work out of Stockholm, but we're a global company. We have an office here in Krakow, for example. We say that our business is the total door opening solution. We want to seamlessly connect the outside with the inside. I don't know if you have noticed, but we are actually the first thing that greets you when you come to this lovely ICE conference center. Because the revolving doors at the entrance, that's our doors. So if you look around this building, I actually went around and took some pictures, and I could find doors, I could find emergency exits. So we are everywhere. Wherever we want to go in or out, we are present. So we are the global leader in door opening solutions. That's our pitch line. We have operations from our own in about 70 countries. We are 47,000 employees, so kind of a small company. We do 7.5 billion euros per year in revenue. Pretty okay, right? We do have a development office here in Krakow also, and we are hiring. So if you want to have a really cool job working with mobile access, working with access solution, IoT, really cool stuff in a secure environment, well, then head to our corporate website and see if you can. Now, let's go back to the main program. And for it, I actually need to change role. That's what my corporate role. So now, let's get into the fun part. I was supposed to show you a video here, but the screen doesn't really love me, so we'll skip that. I'm going to take you on a journey to on my summer. What I do during the summers in Sweden. I'm a member of the Swedish Motorcycle Association, hard word, say in the morning, SMC. We are approximately 75,000 members. We have 21 local districts. We are above now 400 local members and motorcycle clubs, and no, Hells Angels is not one of those. And I'm not really going to talk about this part, because that's the administrative part. I want to talk about the fun part, the SMC school, where we do educations. And this is one of the things that we do. On a yearly basis, we have above approximately 70 advanced courses that we do on racetracks. And we also have about 200 basic educations that we do on parking lots, on go-kart tracks, gravel patches, wherever you can ride a motorcycle, basically, we are there. To do this, we have over 800 volunteers doing over 15,000 educational days per year. That's a lot. And actually, motorcyclists are the one traffic group in the world that does most driver education after they have taken the license. Not even well, if you are doing it professionally, you will do it as often as the motorcycles do. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about. You remember these two pictures? I promised I would get back to them. You might be surprised that I'm actually doing the same thing in both pictures, both when I'm in the office and when I'm on the racetrack. And that is what I'm going to talk about today. This is what the whole talk is about. So I'm going to take you through the journey of a day. I'm going to talk about the challenges I have of taking a participant on my course safely through the days. And then I will draw an analogy and show you the similarities that we have when we do software development and development systems. So driving a motorcycle fast and doing agile development has a lot of common things. First thing is that in anything we do, we take a calculated risks. When I do a push to Git, I know that it might break the build. Somebody might get angry at me. If I go to production, might introduce a bug that the QA didn't fetch. But okay, fine with me, as long as nobody dies, right? When you're on a racetrack, a bug can be slightly more dangerous and have slightly more consequences and, trust me, quite a bit more physical. Now that's not me, that's Danny Pedrosa, the MotoGP rider. Yeah, he's high-siding. Don't get into technicalities. So you can break a little bit more than the build on a motorcycle. However, what we do to protect ourselves on the racetrack and on the development side is sort of the same. Before we go further, I actually want to ask you one question. What makes a day awesome? Coffee, that's one thing. Fika, same as coffee. Good progress. There's a lot of things that makes a day awesome. This is what makes my day awesome. Good attitude. When I feel, yeah, we're great. Nice behaviors. We are nice to each other. The bosses are absent. Stuff like that. A safe environment. Where I can feel safe. Where I can increase my skills. Going to conferences. Perfect. Where you can elaborate on best practices, use best practices, and maybe even improve them. So let's first start with looking at the challenges I have as a motorcycle instructor. First challenge is that when I come to a racetrack, I don't know my stakeholders, the participants. They are totally unknown for me, most part. Some of them I actually started recognizing now. And I do have 8 participants per day, up to 8 participants per day, sometimes even more. The worst group I have was 16 alone. Second big challenge I have is I don't have any idea where they come from, and I don't have any idea where they want to go. It's an unknown journey. Third is that on a normal day on a racetrack, I can have up to 2 to 10 different groups on the same racetrack at the same time, doing other sort of development. And the final challenge is that I also have a team that's only just keeping an eye on us. Those are the people that manage the pit lane, the exit, on the track, the flag post, ambulance crew. Yeah, we do have an ambulance crew, an ambulance on track, wherever we do this. We need to have people that are doing the food, and as you mentioned, a lot of coffee. There's a lot of coffee going on a race day. Does this sound like a project that you want to be part of? Or is it a project that you are a part of? Yeah, it's pretty much the developer's day, right? So how do we solve this? How do we solve this puzzle? Well, we are using agile principles. We're using them in our planning. We're looking a lot at the lean principles, trying to cut away the waste, doing it as flawlessly as possible. We don't really want to push anything onto the participant that doesn't add value. They are paying quite big money, you know, to get a day at the racetrack. So let's get them. We are doing self-organizing team, stuff like that. Just a question, for how long have you all been driving a motorcycle? 20 years. And the rest of you, you also drive? Oh. Okay, then let's actually start about going through a day at the racetrack. If you haven't seen that movie, do it. The first thing that happens when we come to the racetrack, and we come a couple of hours earlier than the participants, is that we gather all the instructors, all the crew, around our training leader. That's the one that has the final responsibility for everything that happens during the day. And he's outlining the day. This is what we're going to do. This is where to find everything. This is where to find food, drinks, the toilets, everything that happens around the racetrack. He also tells us who is the master instructors for each group. I'll come back to the groups a little bit later. The track responsible, or the race control as we call them, he informs us how to enter and exit the track, where we will have man pickets, flag posts, and if there is anything we need to know about the track that has safety issues, if they are using an alternative path or stuff like that. We have a long list that we go through, so I won't go through all the things that we do, but we do this every day. Quite often we have educations that span over multiple days, but regardless of that, we do this every morning, go through the checklist. It might have changed. It might be somebody that is new to this particular track, to this particular race training leader. So it might be a new master instructor that wasn't there yesterday. What we then do is we look at who is going to be there today, and the master instructors, in conjunction with us, actually then go and say, yeah, I will work with those groups, you will take that group, oh, your bike is not really feeling well today, so you can take a slower group, stuff like that. So in that case, we are self-organized. And what we then do is, we do a security check on the bikes, on the instructors' bikes. Anything that needs to go out on the track must have gone through scrutiny. Otherwise, you're not allowed on the track. Because that's a safety. Do you want to have a bike that has no brakes? No. Do you want to have a bike that leaks oil? I don't think so. Safety is always number one. And then the participants arrive, and they sign in, and we divide them into the groups according to the preferred speed they want to do, and which educational step they are going to participate in. We have 4 different steps, spanning from basics to really advanced stuff. And normally we run 3 or 4 different speed groups on the track at the same time. No, not at the same time, actually, but we have 3 or 4 speed groups. I'm going to talk about the speed groups a little bit more later. And then we have the drivers' meeting, which basically is where the training leader tells everybody, again, what to do, how to do it. The same checklist, more or less. And he presents the master instructors for the different speed groups. And what we do then, we take the different speed groups and we gather all of them together, regardless of which educational step they are going through. And when we have done that, when I've gathered everybody, we go through the flag signals again, we go through the safety procedures again, and then we are sort of letting the group decide which rules they're going to have on the track. Are you allowed to overtake in the corners? Are you allowed to trail brake? Are you allowed to wheelie? What are you allowed to do? And they have to figure this out by themselves. Of course, we are nudging them in some directions. You have to do that. But it's the teams that are going to be on the track together that makes the rules. And then we split up into the different groups, depending on which educational step that you're going to do. And we do the same inspection that we did on the instructor's bikes, on the participant bike, the scrutineering. So now everybody should know what to expect of the day, right? And what happened next is the fun part, the really fun part. This is where I go into my role as a Scrum Master, architect, instructor, coach, whatever you want to call it. And I have two major things I do at this point. The first thing is I make sure that everybody knows each other. Have a short presentation. Hey, my name is Ove. I drive this bike. It's named Olivia. I have been riding for 17 years. Hi, my name is Klaus. I ride this really shiny new bike, and I have been riding for 3 weeks. That's the level that you can have inside of a group, but it's important that everybody knows each other. We iterate over the day, and we decide which is the overall theme for the day. And this might differ a bit between the groups, because, as I said, I don't know where they come from. I don't know how many educational days they have done, for how long they've been riding. A person that has been doing the racetracks for 20 plus years has a totally different need than someone that has had the driver's license for 3 weeks. I go through everything that we want to know about where to meet, how to go into the racetrack, how to go out of the racetrack, and then I have the participants write their stories. What do you want to do today? Some may be the same as another participant, some may be really personal. Sometimes I even have the participant rank their own stories in t-shirt sizes, so we know, is this a big deal or a small deal? Because for one participant, this might be just a small change, but for another participant, this is a huge deal. So you can have everything from small to XXL on the same story. So this is sort of our epics. So now at least we have a backlog. So what we have done now is a sprint 0, right? You recognize this? Seen it before? This is the Toyota Improvement and Coaching Kata. That's what I've been basing my educations, my coaching on for the last couple of years. Based on this, I have the participants write their stories. Where do they want to go? What is the challenge they have? What do they need to change? And then we select an experiment. Where are you right now? Do you know where you are? That might be a problem. Do I know that I don't know this? And then we conduct an experiment. And then it's time for the fun. That's when we actually go out on the racetrack and we execute this experiment. And when we come back from that, we are running about 20 minutes, then we do retro. And we see, hey, how did that go? Do I need to change something? Is this actually what I wanted? So it's a retrospective sort. And that one, that's a pace that we're doing the whole day. We have a theory session, sort of a story grooming. We have a planning. We execute it when we are on the track and actually doing the fun part. And then we do a retrospective. And of course, somewhere there we need to fit in some coffee. And on a normal day, I do 7, 8, 9 of these sprints, taking 60 to 80 minutes. Now we talk about short sprints. And on each of these, we are conducting one experiment. And hopefully, we are being a better motorcyclist at the end of the sprint. Now we can talk about continuous delivery a lot. So this is me doing an experiment. How far onto the tank can you sit and still drive it? I can say you can actually sit on the tank. Do you notice the camera I have on the back? We do monitoring a lot. Really, actually. I'm on the racetrack with my participants, riding, so I can look at them and give them feedback. That's monitoring the application. But we also have other people around the track marshals manning the pickets, giving us flag signals, that also can feed back to us and say, hey, that participant is doing this, so can you please tell him to stop? I have a couple of other instructors with me on the track. I'm not alone on the track. As I said, it can be 4 or 5, even 6 other groups on the racetrack at the same time, doing another exercise and doing another educational step. But they also look at my participants, but not giving them feedback on their because they don't really know what exercise to do. We have on our racetrack quite heavily limitation of how much noise we can produce. So we do monitor the sound of the motorcycles also, and if somebody is making too much noise, I don't know why it's almost always a Ducati, but yeah, it might be. So we have to monitoring that also. So it's a lot of monitoring going on. That is, by the way, Olivia that I mentioned. That's the bike's name. And the 7 Aprilia. Good notice. This is me doing pair programming with a participant. And this is an excellent way for me to actually show the participant how to do it. How do you want to, because motorcycling is more, quite often about feeling. And sometimes I can't really see what the participant is doing, but I can feel it. So I tag along. And trust me, that can be a really scary experience sometimes. Do we do mob programming? No. We have tried, but you can't really fit that many people onto a motorcycle. What we do is actually just stand beside the track and look at somebody that does an exercise, and then we can talk about it. So it's sort of a mob programming. Feedback is everything in our education. We need to have fast feedback on what's happening on the track. And as an instructor, my focus is to give feedback to the participants. I can never teach somebody how to drive a motorcycle. It's impossible. Because motorcycling is a lot about gut feeling. How does it feel? I can talk about a lot of things. I can talk about how the bike works, how the suspension works, why would I do this, why would I do that. But in the end, what I can do is just make sure that somebody knows what they are not knowing, and that they can execute the exercises that I'm trying to put onto them. And then they have to draw their own conclusions. Because in the end of the day, it's about understanding what your bike wants to tell you. It's to understand what your brains want to tell you. It's what your gut feelings want to tell you. So a question I get really often is, how do you actually establish a safe improvement environment on the racetrack? Oh, that has actually never happened, but let's ask ourselves that question, because that is the important question here today. And now I can talk a lot about Morse circles, I could talk about survival reactions, I could talk about a ton of other stuff that actually happens on the racetrack on a given day. But I will not do that, because then we will be here to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. But what we'll talk about is slack and the 80% mark. When we ride, we tell our participants, don't go so fast. Yeah, I know that you can drive faster. I know that you are now 3 seconds below your best time on this track, but I don't really care. Take a step back and don't go over the 80% threshold, because that's where things start to happen really fast. That's when we go into the corner and we are saying, oh, holy shit, in our helmets. We get scared. And when you get scared on a motorcycle, same as you get scared when you're doing software development, you start to make mistakes. If you're going on full speed all the time, you're braking really late, you are getting on the gas, full gas, and it's wheelie. I hope you have tried the wheelie machine, it's really cool. Then you have no time to reflect, and you have no time to learn. So most of my time actually goes to pulling the participants back. Hey, cool down a bit. We will come to that later. I try to do this in software development teams also. I don't want them to drive 100% all the time. When will they have time to go to conferences and listen to me? They will be scared if you push them all the time. They will have no time to actually be in an environment where they feel comfortable. And that is where the speed groups comes in. If you're riding in a group that are above your level, they're really pushing it all the way, well, then it's scary, because you can't really keep the pace. If you are in a group that are doing a really slow development or driving really slowly, that can be even more dangerous, because then you're getting bored and then you don't pay attention. So the speed groups are an important part of what we do. We talk about 80%, but 80% is not the same for everybody. My 80% might be your 120. And my 80%, if you talk about the MotoGP driver, is 10%. So it's a lot of that, but we need to have the same possibilities on the track. All teams must be treated equals. That is, they have the same track time, they have the same abilities, they have the same opportunities to learn, and they have the same basic rule set. And everybody on the track applies to the same thing. And they have common rules, like in the pit area, where you can't go how fast you want, even if you want to. But faster speed groups can be an inspiration. Quite often I find that participants just standing at the racetrack and looking, because what you do is you look at those who are better. That's why you are on conferences like this. And getting inspiration. Hey, that guy is actually riding the same bike as I do, much quicker than I do. Darn. There's always somebody that is faster. Some of our participants have the right to go really fast, even when they're not on the racetrack. And trust me, I've been chased by the Swedish police a lot. I've never been stopped. And it's a really interesting feeling to tell a police that it needs to go faster. But yeah. So these are two of my participants from a course we did a couple of years ago. Let's slow down a bit and talk a little bit about my journey and why I'm actually doing this as an instructor. When I started riding motorcycles about 17 years ago, I was slow, really slow. And over the first 3 years, I had no improvement, or at least I felt no improvement whatsoever. I was still going slow. I still had this, no, this is not fun. I even started thinking about, should I sell my bike? Because this is not fun. And then one friend told me that, hey, you need to stop going to regular track days where you just ride around, and you need to join me and do this motorcycle course that I'm attending, I'm an instructor at. So let's go and have some driver's education. And stop comparing yourself with everybody that is so much faster than you. Because, well, do you actually know them? Do you know what they've done? So I started asking them, how come that you are driving so fast? Yeah, well, we have been riding on the track for quite a long time, and when we started counting, we realized that they have about 15 championship medals, both national and international. So, yeah, they are kind of fast. So what I was comparing with was the fastest motorcyclist in Sweden at that time. And of course I felt slow. If you're always comparing to those who are the best of the best, then, and I blame the bike, because it's always the tool's fault that you are slow, right? You can always buy a faster tool, a better tool. No? But they became my inspiration. Today, 15 years something later, I'm still not fast enough to compete with those guys, and they are actually starting to get kind of old now. But at least now they have a little bit more struggle to pass me, at least on the straight, because I have a better bike than they have. So that's a stop signal. That's the flag we don't want to see, because then something have happened on the track. But let's stop for a while and just see if we can gather our thoughts. How can I have 8 teams, 40 developers maybe, I mean motorcyclists, on the same track at the same time doing different development without hurting themselves or someone else? Well, what is needed is, of course, a set of rules, an agreed set of rules. We need to have common signals, like the flags. We need to have a plan of action if anything goes wrong. How do we stop on a track? How do we go forward? When does the ambulance goes out? All these things. We need to have the right support. I have talked about what happened on the track, but off track we have those that manage the fika, coffee, lunch, entrance, timekeeping, the pickets, everything. We need to have aligned sprints. I don't want half of the group starting 10 minutes after me and then ending 10 minutes after me. We need to go out at the same time. We need to know that when we are in a sprint, nothing fussy will happen. I don't want to all of a sudden meet a bus going in the other direction. How many times does that happen in a sprint when we do software development? We have different speed groups so that we are aligned with each other. And then it's all about communication, communication, and communication. Talk with each other. If I feel that, hey, that wasn't really good, that passing you didn't make me feel good, talk to them. And one thing that has been really doing a lot for our incident statistics is taking what we had before, which basically was, this is how you want to do it, exactly, and you are supposed to stand in this spot at this time, and then you are going into that lecturing hall, and you are listening to that person doing this theory, and then you're going out and do what he's told you. We are now doing more self-organized teams. You set the rules. It's more an autonomy. And that has brought down the statistics a lot, really a lot. So we have a lot less incidents than we did the more by the rules. And that's what I'm thinking, that's what you need to do on your teams also. Make sure that they have the autonomy, make sure that they have a self-organizing and self-aware environment. There are 5 keys to a successful day at a racetrack. I wanted to ask my participants and myself 5 questions. And the first one is, can we take risks without feeling insecure or embarrassed? I need to admit that I can't do this, and I need to be able to do it on the track in a safe environment. No buses onto the track in the wrong direction. Can we all count on each other to do high quality work on time? Do I know that my fellow participants on the track actually respects my need of space and don't mess up with my driving, and I have the same respect for someone else? Are the goals, the roles, the execution plan of our team clear? Do I know what I want to do? Have I understood the exercise? All these things. Do I know the flags, what they mean? And an important thing is, are we working on something that is personally important for each of us? If I've done this exercise 1,000,000 times before, I can ride it with my left hand on the gas if I want to. That's the level I have. Why would I do that exercise for the 1,000,000th time? That's nothing. No, I don't want to do that. Let me have some fun instead. That's when I start a wheelie. And the last part is, do I fundamentally believe that I'm doing this for a reason? Does it actually matter? If I don't understand why I'm doing this, why am I doing this? The instructor told me to. Yeah, but why? Don't know. And about a year ago, I got across the Google Rework site. If you don't know about it, go into there, because there is really a lot of cool stuff there. And they have the same 5 things that they ask their teams. So if you can answer yes on all those questions, that would have been an awesome day. And I try to have my team ask the same questions, but in software development. At least at the retrospective, each sprint. Hey, well, this is a sprint where we actually did something meaningful, or did we feel safe? So we are trying to get the same effect on a racetrack that Google does when they do awesome team development and awesome products like Gmail and Google Apps and oh no. So to sum it up in the last minutes, what you need to be a good race driver, a good educational, a good coach, and of course also a good software developer team, is you need to have a safe environment to be awesome. If you don't have the space to be awesome, then everything else doesn't really matter. And you also need to have this space to make sure that you can fail in a safe way. Don't crash. It needs to be including. Everybody must feel welcome. They must feel a place. That's where the self-organizing comes in. You need to have commonly agreed rules. What happens if somebody crashes on the track? Yeah, you get the hell out of the track because you need to get the ambulance on the track. He might be hurt. Do you want somebody to lay there on the track being hurt for some extra time because I'm going to drive another 4 laps because I was almost done? No. Same as you don't really want to have somebody commit stuff when somebody else has broken the build. You don't do that. You have to have common goals. Where do we want to go this sprint? I want to go that way. No, we are supposed to go this way. But it's much more fun to drive this track at the other direction. Not so good. Short iterations, fast feedback. Don't do a 1-hour sprint. This is not an endurance race. Autonomy and self-organizing. I said that was one key point to getting the incidents on the track down. If you are taking care of what you are doing, that's what you do. You take consideration of it. Constant communication. Talk to each other. Give feedback. I have a lot of I do use my hands a lot on the track just to make sure that I can signal to my participants. The one I use most is this. Good. Dead. I never use that one. And everybody needs to participate on their level. Don't try to force them into something that they are not ready to do. If you find that, hey, you can't do this right now in this way because you're lacking a skill, you're lacking a team member that has that skill. Make sure that that one comes into it. Try to improve all the time. Constant improvement. Try to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday. Planning is everything. Plans sucks. We plan for what we want to do if something happens, but we are not planning, making a plan that it should happen at this time. And you need to have the right support organization. If you don't have a boss that comes with fika every Wednesday, cinnamon buns and a good coffee or ice cream or whatever, get rid of that boss. They need to support you. If you don't have the right tool, the right environment, if you need to do your development on a crappy old Dell computer, Dell is actually kind of good nowadays, but you really want to have a Macintosh because that would improve, well, then make sure that you get that one. That's the base of it. And then there is a lot of other things that you can understand. What I've noticed I have left out here now is make sure that you have some slack, because slack is important. It's when you get some slack that you actually start going fast. I had a young participant a couple of years ago that went extremely fast. None of the instructors, and some of them are pretty fast, had any chance of competing with him. But he had not been improving his track times, his lap times for the last 3 years. And we said, hey, seriously, put your race bike aside, lend this one instead that has half the brake horsepower that you're used to, and then you just go out and have fun on the track. And he was there for nearly 3 days. And then we let him out again on his race bike. And he was going, yeah, I can't ride anymore because this goes so slow. Nothing happens. And when you then look at the track time, he actually had improved his time with 1.5 seconds just by going slower. So slack does matter. That is actually everything I was going to talk about today. So let's have a little feedback session. Does this make sense? Can you actually compare motorcycle driving and software development, or is this just a lot of... Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Teams have survival reactions to what's happening the same way as a motorcyclist has survival reactions to what's happening on the track or on the road. They freeze, the target lock, stuff like that. Any questions? No. Then I thank you for letting me talk to you for 45 minutes. If you want to ask me any questions off camera, I will be here for at least until lunch. So find me. I will take off this, but otherwise you will find me anyway. I have a feeling of that. So thank you for listening and have a pleasant day.